Rest in peace, Big Pun, and somebody go find Joe, because I guess Chaz don't want to be a player no more. Y'all, let's talk about this latest episode of Ready to Love Dallas Fort Worth. Hey y'all, it's your girl Tammy. Welcome back to another Ready to Love episode, child. We halfway through the season. I don't know how y'all feeling, but I am glad this is winding down, honey. But while we in the second part of this vacation that will never end. Anyway, we're back at it again, and the guys are waiting to see who will be eliminated. As you know, they went on this nice little vacation, little getaway in town, and Tommy is up there with Vanessa as they contemplate which of the three men will be going home that's up for elimination. You know, you got LaRon, you got Will 2.0, and you got Urkel slash Urkel slash Zoe. Y'all know he likes Steve Urkel, y'all. Anyway, they're all sitting waiting for their judgment, honey. And it's all, the swelled music and extra. Rasheena's like, look, we got to make this decision because this really will determine who's in for this last round of things. And so all the guys are trying to figure it out. They're saying how they don't know if it could be them or what it could be. And, Will's letting us know his third time in elimination. And that really says something. And apparently it does, because he's chosen as the one to go home. He feels like he's done everything he can do, and it is what it is. Honey, when I tell you LaRon was sitting there shaking at a fever pitch, but this was also a part of his strategy. Ultimately, LaRon threw him under the bus because Will ultimately was a part of the plot to take down Koshia. And I think at some point with Will 1.0 and Alexis and a few others try to strategically eliminate people to remain in the last few. And LaRon exposed that to the group prior to, and it really weakened his position, Will's position with Maya, even when he tried to come in and explain himself later. So he is gone, and the men reconvene in the living room. Right before they go in there, Tommy lets them know that, hey, I got a crawfish boil going on, and I got a little something extra for y'all tonight. It's a surprise. So everybody's excited, but Patrice is crying, and she's a bit sad because, Will was one of her other connections on the show past Zoe. I guess he was the more mature version. It's like she liked the father and the son. Honey, I don't know. Like I told y'all, him and Patrice give me mother-son vibes. But she's a little emotional about it. And once again, Vanessa being way too generous as a wingman, in my opinion, because why is Patrice even fitting herself into the Chaz situation? We can go back into it later on. Goes to check on Patrice, but she's not ready to talk to anybody, and Vanessa understands and she goes away. The men are sitting downstairs, and by the men, I mean LaRon, Zoe, and Chaz, talking about the whole elimination process and how it was like a crazy situation. And ultimately, LaRon said, like, I definitely thought I could have been the one to go home. And it really was up between those two. I don't think Zoe was going to go home at all. And Chaz decides to chime himself in, talking about, oh, I really thought it could have been me. Sir, why? You know that you're liked by at least 4 of the women in this house. Why are you acting like you thought she was going to be up for elimination? Chaz, quite frankly, sir, what are you doing? So he basically says that he thought it could have been him because by him having 4 choices and the women not seeing him pick anybody in particular, he could have been up for elimination. When I tell you LaRon looked at him like, sir, these ladies like you. Stop acting like you was really up on the chopping block. He is becoming annoying. So, child, like I told y'all, we done came back from the whole, debacle with Chaz added himself into the mix. And we back outside with some nonsense-less conversation between Justin and Rashina. And again, y'all, this is one of the reasons I love Rashina on the show. I feel like she just has a level of maturity that's there. And Justin as well. He's a nice breath of fresh air from some of the fuckboy energy we've been getting lately on the show. So Justin is sitting down with Rashina, and he's saying how, Mika and Rashina are both of his matches, but lately he's been spending more time with Mika on the trip. And he lets, he's coming to reassure Rashina that she's still somebody that he's interested in, but he has been spending more time with Mika, and he notices that they have been getting closer. He doesn't want her to feel any type of way because from the beginning, she's always shown him love and been very respectful. Rashina, in her very adult fashion, says, look, I totally understand it. You're one of my top connections, but if Mika is it, I wish you well. Like, I'm happy to see y'all spending time together. Like, she definitely is seeing their vibe and they're growing close, and she understands, and she's completely fine with it. That's what the show is about, finding your person. Again, just how the maturity of the show needs to be, because on the other side, from the outside to the inside, it's very, very, very different. And we move inside to Vanessa sitting with Chaz. And Chaz still in his feelings about having feelings for everybody. And Chaz is on this, self-ingratiating, aggrandizing phase of putting himself in this victimhood of, I have so many choices and I don't know what to do. Meanwhile, nobody is asking Chaz to pick a person like that, but he needs to be clear about his intentions. Basically, Chaz is copycatting his energy with everybody. It's cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. And he's not really giving intentional time to his real connections. He keeps saying he has 4 connections. I'm not sure how, because if I'm not mistaken, Patrice didn't give you her number to the house. So you didn't even need to include that woman in the orbit of people that you were interested in coming into this situation. You really only had 2 connections, which was Vanessa and Rashina, and he should have kept it there. Instead, he then adds in, 2 other people that he hasn't really even been talking to the entire time, and makes his situation worse than what it needs to be. And now he's coming back as he gaslights Vanessa in a conversation. So Vanessa says, hey, look, I don't think anybody's trying to stake claims on you, but we haven't really been spending a lot of time together, and I've been one of your top connections. Since we've been in the house, it feels like you're kind of trying to plot everybody into a specific time frame, and we're spending less time together than we would have been able to do outside of the individual dates we have. The whole point is for us to see if we have an even stronger connection, and honestly, who these extra people? So Chaz listens to what she's saying, but ultimately ends up gaslighting her in the conversation, and she repeats that exact word, basically saying that, he's playing this, oh, I just don't know what to do. I feel like I'm so cornered and y'all are asking for so much. Chaz, why did you include Mika and Patrice to begin with? You and Krishan Sr. didn't even talk until the trip in that capacity. You're adding in all of these extra people and then making the decision harder. This is what happens when you try to be a player, or you come into your coolness later on in life, or even just in a moment or an incident, and you don't know how to actually juggle women, or it's not naturally like you to be the situation. This is what happens to me when you're more Drake than you are ASAP Rocky. If you know, you know. So Mr. Chaz is not happy with the way that him and Vanessa's conversation went on. And so he leaves the situation and he walks outside and storms past Maya and Rashina, who don't understand what's going on. And they don't really say anything. They ask him what's okay. He storms off in a little bit of an energy bolt back to his room. And when Vanessa walks outside, they then begin to ask Vanessa, like, hey, girl, what's going on? We just saw Chaz. He walked past us and stormed past us in a huffy. What's going on? And Vanessa says, girl, I don't know. Basically, we had a conversation where I laid it out to him like, hey, a lot of us are just trying to understand, like, what's going on with you? Where do you stand in the process in terms of this like shuffle that you're doing regarding us as people who are interested in you? Like, what's the dynamic? And he didn't know how to handle the conversation. Like, sir, you're grown. You just talked to Iran about the damn near this exact same issue, and now you don't know how to articulate yourself. And so Vanessa's, airing out, like, I guess what their conversation was, which was basically what Rashina had already said. He's gonna have to make a decision. And it's very confusing and messy as hell to have us all on the hook trying to figure out like where we stand in the dynamic. Like, you're doing too much. There's only but so many people in the house, and it's only so much crawfish. So somebody got to go home. Meanwhile, while they're having that chit chat over in Justin's room with Mika, he's not feeling well, and Mika's sort of doing a little bit of care to him and attending to him because he's, started feeling a little bit under the weather. And it's clear that they're growing very close. It's super sweet, and we love to see it because anybody else in here got no connections, as we can tell. I don't know what's going on, but everybody else left is giving very light likes and not a lot of real intentional love or possible relationship. Only Mika and Justin are serving that type of energy to us at this very moment. Everybody else just feel like vacation friends. So, she starts helping him with his hair. They have like another little cute moment. He says that he did not anticipate that she would be the person that he would connect with, but he really, really likes her. And she feels the exact same way. And we're just happy that somebody getting along, child. So fast forward to the group is finally out there to eat the crawfish, honey. Everybody's there to have a good time. The crawfish boil is ready. And Lonzo wants to know, like, hey, how do we eat this? I love these moments culturally because I feel like a lot of times, depending on where you're from geographically in the country, like this may or may not be your family's heritage or culture. So it was kind of cool for LeBron to show him like how they eat the crawfish, and they were kind of just discussing how the boil works. It was very nice to see that, like, fun education about different parts of Black culture depending on where you live. So they're having a good time outside, yakety yakking, talking, laughing, and eating and sucking on some crawfish. And Patrice is still inside because for some reason William leaving was such a breakdown for her. It was very, very weird because She spent most of her time with Zoe. Y'all let me know in the comments, but I feel like she spent so much time with Stephen Urkel. I don't feel like her and William spent that much time together past the double dates. I didn't get that she had so much energy towards him past like the emotional moment they had on the beach. But Patrice is still, getting over that, and she finally feels like she's ready to rejoin the group. She hears Chaz like left. I guess production told her that he left in his room, and so she knocks on his door to find out. Inside, we hear Chaz sobbing about his decision making again, and basically Chaz is saying he feels pressure. He doesn't feel like people there understand him. It very much gave teenage angst energy, and I do not know where we are right now. Chaz went from being one of the most mature people on the show to being one of the least mature in terms of how he's handling the situation. Sir, this is self-inflicted damage. You could just not talk with Patrice in a romantic manner because y'all didn't even connect to the house. You could also eliminate Mika because you really don't have this strong connection with her. Focus on your two connections like everybody else is trying to do and call it a day. Chaz says he feels like people here don't understand him. And Patrice is like, hey, we're on the same boat as you. We're all in this together. You don't think we care for you, but we're also very confused. He just wants to go home and be surrounded by people who love him and understand him. He then packs his duffel bag and ruffles his behind on out the door because he just can't take it no more. So everybody's having a peaceful time chomping down, and here comes Patrice coming outside. She comes to join the rest of the group, and they ask her how she's feeling. She says she's feeling better. And they ask her, has she seen Chaz? What's going on? And she says, well, I have seen Chaz, but he's kind of was up in his room or whatever, not feeling whatever, and I don't think he's going to be feeling the rest of the trip. So everybody's like, what? It's like Scooby-Doo. And so she essentially goes on to say that Chaz has left the trip. And everybody's like, what? And so my favorite part is when Justin goes, so he headed home. So Patrice explains that, yes, he is en route home. Essentially, he left the dinner and he left the trip. He did not leave the process, but he could not handle the trip. Everybody starts to immediately feel bad. They're a little shocked by the situation. Vanessa starts to feel bad, feeling like, well, did they pile on because they started to ask him more questions for clarity? And Rashina is shocked because she says like, oh, well, what happened? And she's like, well, I've been upstairs praying with him, doing this stuff. I don't think Chaz ever let Patrice in. Y'all remind me, I don't know, in the comments. I thought he just talked to her through the door. But what's crazy to me with Krishan 2.0 or Krishan Senior really is that I feel like Patrice has these things where she likes to appear more special or picked, regardless of what the situation was. Because when she starts talking about how she prayed with Chaz and she talked with him, she acts as if Chaz came to her to confide in her. And he didn't. She knocked on his door and started to ask questions, and he starts to tell her what's going on through the door. That could have been any of the women. But the way that Patrice talks about the situation, flags Rashina in the green screen to basically say like, oh, this is awkward that he chose Patrice because I feel like I was one of his strongest connections. And I think she really alludes to the fact that Vanessa would have been the other one, but that you think he would come to one of them to confide and to talk about his feelings about the situation and not Patrice. But that's because the way Patrice set it up for them, it makes it seem as if Chaz came to her on a one-on-one and knocked on her door and sat down and really confided and talked with her. He didn't. She just happened to be there. So she's the person that he spoke to. But you know how she plays those things as if she was somehow special than the rest of the group. Essentially, they feel bad. But I agree with Maya. You need to learn how to handle your emotions on the situation. Sir, you're close to 40, 44, 45. And you're a grown man. Like, you need to take the process seriously and eliminate the people that really aren't your strongest connections. That's what's causing a lot of this drama. We can see that Justin and Mika are a thing. We can see that Patrice and Zoe are a thing. So why are they even in your top 4? And so, everybody kind of feels bad after Patrice says, he'll be fine. And it's like kind of quiet. And LeBron goes, this feels like a funeral. And that's why you need somebody like LeBron. You need the turn up king to make the energy go back. He said, yo, let's get in this house and get it together and let's turn up. They go back in, start having a good time. Justin mixing drinks. Zoden, when he's got his skates on, he loved to have a good time doing the line dance, honey. And they are all swaying side to side. The party's a little bit more turned up. Everybody's energy is back to where it should be. And that's the same energy a lot of them keep within the nighttime when it's time to go to bed. So Ron hooks up with Maya and they sit down in pajamas and he's getting closer to her and more aggressive. Hey, they the only two left of the two that like each other outside of like 2 other couples. So it is what it is. At this point, they just clinging to the end. And Zoe ends up changing into his pajamas and Patrice is in her room. So when it's time to go back to the rooms, Maya doesn't exactly take LeBron back to her room. She's like, look, we're gonna hang out on the couch and watch a movie. But Zoe does head over to Patrice's room. And Justin and Mika end up in bed together, having a very sweet and cute conversation. You can definitely see that they're connected. And Justin said he's really been enjoying her on this trip because she can be a bit serious, and it was nice to see her let her guard down, and he likes to see the fun Mika. He says Mika could be his person, or at least the beginnings of being his person. So, child, after a steamy night of everybody in each other's beds, everybody wakes up and gets their head ready for heading on out that doorway because it is time to go back to the real world. LeBron even proclaims that he got to get back to work, so they can't stay no more. Everybody exits and says goodbye to the peaceful and yet strangely weird weekend and heads back to their real life. And in real life, we finally get to see a date between Maya and LaRon. They go on a regular lunch date, have appetizers and oysters. Essentially, let's be honest, LaRon and Maya's connection is as strong as Portia and Dennis's connection was. That's what they remind me of. Like a spin-off version of Portia and Dennis. That's all I'm getting from this situation. I don't have no extra strong vibes of deep love. It seems very surface, but they just seem like they are going with the flow of how everything is happening. Before they leave the house, however, Justin does sit down with Rashina. So, even though Rashina has been one of his strongest connections, it's clear that him and Maya are really, really connected. And Rashina was really more tagged in with Chaz, and she's still a bit upset about the fact that he left. And it is confusing for her because she doesn't think it should be that difficult, at least to Chaz, to have peered down from 4 to at least 2. And we completely agree. But Justin being the sweetheart he is, and him really forming a friendship with Rashina, he's there for comfort in the moment, and he wants to make sure that they're good and that she's good before leaving the house. And I just love this moment between them because it was very much a nice platonic moment that we needed to see. And it harkened back to when he mentioned that even if they don't make it out of here like that, their connection has grown strong enough that that's really his peoples for life. And I love to see it. And he checks on her. She does get emotional because she doesn't understand why Chaz left. She feels like they were owed an explanation. I agree. And I also feel like it was just the way he huffed off and left without thinking about the fact that his two strongest connections are completely confused. But Justin is there for her in the moment, and it was comforting and nice to see. Fast forward to Patrice is now on another date with Alonzo. Very cool date. But here's the problem that, again, I have with Kashawn Sr. She keeps playing this back and forth because she says, though, even though she has a connection with Chaz, where, ma'am, she still loves all the days that she goes on with Alonzo. She likes the adventurous side of him. He always makes her laugh. She doesn't not ever have a good time with him. And he's somebody she could see in her future. She says that she wants to continue to live life a little bit on the edge and do things every day that scare her and get over fearful things by trying new things. And that's something that Alonzo brings to the table. So again, why are we including Chaz when y'all don't really have a connection? You've never been out on any dates. You just linked up for one small moment at the house and barely that. And Alonzo is clearly your person. Stop playing on that top. So now we got the final 4, and the men are entering into the lounge. LeBron's there early because he always make sure he got a drink on hand. And Justin walks in, and then Zoe walks in. I actually really love Zoe's hair in this moment. So much of the episodes he's had his hair in those 4 twisted locks. I don't know. It just looked crazy to me. His locks actually look really beautiful with the wave and the locks. It really just brings the beauty of his hair. So I really appreciate Urkel changing it up. So in walks Chaz at the last minute. And LeBron is actually happy to see him. He says that he appreciates that Chaz did not just drop out the process. He feels like even though Chaz had a moment that was less than shining at the blackboard, he's glad that he joined the class again today. Tommy walks in. They love that he looks fresh to death in his bright Big Bird yellow, and they get down to business. So essentially, Tommy wants to know what happened after he left for the weekend and gave y'all them crawdads. And he hits up Chaz first, and Chaz explains to Tommy, as if he didn't already know, that he left the house unexpected because he just became so overwhelmed. And he said he goes into this narrative about how as a black man, we have mental health issues too, or we worry about things, we have to take self-care or whatever. And Tommy co-signs and the other men say cool. I'm gonna say this. I absolutely agree that everybody deserves grace when it comes to their mental health or anything like that. But when Chaz, I feel like this was a scapegoat moment because ultimately he is absolutely right about anybody collecting themselves and getting themselves together, regardless of race or gender. But with Chaz, this was a self-inflicted, painful situation simply because you chose to try to be a player and you did not know how to do it. As I said in the previous segment, this is when you try to be ASAP Rocky and you really are Drake. When you're really not that guy, when you're really not a player, when you're not really, that's not who you naturally are, it doesn't feel authentic and you struggle to completely get into that vibe. It's not who you are. And to me, what made it feel like Chaz was playing in our face, and ultimately what I feel like will come up with him and Rashina and why I think Rashina was done, is because Chaz is a man of STEM, right? He's a math guy, he's an accountant. Sir, all you needed was logical elimination to complete the process regarding these four women. Why are you making it seem like you had an authentically strong connection with each of these women? You just didn't. You had one with Vanessa, you had it with Rashina. Those are the women that you chose to introduce to your friends. When they asked you who you could take seriously, that's the people that you chose to introduce. We didn't even really have it with Mika. Like that was something that wasn't even really explored this weekend, barely. And he certainly didn't have it with Patrice. Patrice ended up throwing her number to him in the kitchen. If Patrice had been somebody who had been on his mind all season long, he would have made time to connect with her somewhere in the process. They never even exchanged phone numbers until that moment. So it was just weird for him to act like he was so overwhelmed. This is just an example of somebody who maybe came into their coolness later on in life. And because of the lack of maturity with so many of the men that existed on the show, Chad stood out. But he's not used to being the guy that probably normally stands out. He might be being used to the guy that normally has to do a little bit more to stand out. And so because of that, he's not used to that level of attention regarding like his maturity and women being attracted to that. But the problem is the thing that they were attracted to about him was his authenticity. And he started to lose that when he kept trying to like number pile them up when he realized that a couple of women liked him or were interested. Instead of saying no to Patrice, like, hey, even if we connected right now, I don't think it would be enough time to build an authentic connection. He could have turned her down in the kitchen. It just gave fake martyr energy about the situation, and I was over it. Fast forward, Tommy asks the other guys how they're doing. Justin says him and Mika are going strong. He enjoys it. Lonzo says he feels the same way about Patrice. And LaRon says he's grown a real strong connection and could see himself married just like he did with Koshia to Maya. He says they fit together. He likes her. He could see her in a serious situation. They ask who they're not feeling. Somebody mentions Patrice. I believe it was Chaz first. Why Zoe gave him that look like, what? But he basically says that him and Patrice just don't have the connection. No, it's not Patrice. I'm sorry. I can't remember who Chaz brings up, child. I'm just so over his dynamic. But Justin says Patrice, I believe. He just said they just haven't made the connection. It isn't what it is. LaRon, I believe, says him and Vanessa, he just doesn't see a future, but she's a cool person. And of course, Chaz says Maya, like there's just not a connection there. So everybody's just trying to, figure out their way. Zoe also didn't connect with Maya. So they're talking about the different things. I believe somebody else mentioned Rashina as well. And so it does go to the dynamic of Chaz saying that, he wants to talk with Rashina specifically because he heard that she was affected, because LaRon ended up mentioning that it felt like a funeral when he left the table. And he asked everybody, how did they do when they left? And LaRon mentioned the funeral thing again in the men's lounge. And so Chaz wants to talk to Rashina because he feels like really bad about the fact that she was so affected by his being gone. So this is a little bit not traditional because normally they have two people at the end that they want to talk to, but Chaz really wants to go on this date and talk to Rashina. And Tommy suggested it's a good idea that he sit down with Rashina first before they do this whole full elimination thing to get out and open the issues that they're having currently, because obviously Justin indicated in the men's lounge that, Rashina was feeling some sort of way when he left, and she was one of his strongest connections. And he doesn't understand, exactly Chaz's reasons, but he feels like Chaz does owe the ladies an explanation. And specifically, Rashina was mostly affected by it, along, I think, with Vanessa, but, during that process. So, child, when I tell you Rashina, Bernadette Sparkle, when a woman's fed up, let me tell you something, kilted. When I see this scene, because I played it back twice, I was so proud of this lady in this moment. Now, let me say this. I feel like this is the same for men or for women. So, men, I feel like you have just as justified to leave that room and eliminate yourself when you see BS coming. And Rashina could see BS coming out of Chaz's mouth as he tried to explain his reasoning for leaving. You are a grown man of the age 40 plus. And the fact that you did not know how to articulate yourself to the women that were your connections and say, I am feeling overwhelmed. I need to figure this out. I may have to leave or I need more time. That was ridiculous. The fact that they could communicate with each other and they individually attempted to communicate with you and you could not talk in that capacity. At the end of the day, Chad is in this entire process because he did not know how to just simply say, not just no, but he didn't know how to stay authentically himself. Nobody was asking him to keep 4 women in the round unless production was, and if so, Chaz exposed them. But the deal is, if you're there, you should have used the simple process of elimination. You see Justin is going for Mika. You see that that Patrice and Zoe really have a stronger connection. So even off of the strength of like, you see your boys with these women and you like them, you still had 2 more people to choose from. It's the level of greed to me. Him and Patrice really do belong together. Him and Krishan Sr. would make a great couple because the level of greed is ridiculous. At the point that we're towards the end of this game, I still have 2 women in the game that are interested in me to choose from. That still would have made an enticing choice. Why is it a matter that I need to actually connect with every single woman on the show? That to me is greed, which ultimately led to his breakdown. And when I tell you Rashina did not care, so they sit down and have a conversation. Chad is beginning to explain his reasonings as to why he felt overwhelmed and he wanted to leave. And Rashina's like, you know what, before you continue, before you try to say I'm not ready to love, because she didn't really know what he was going to say. I'm not sure he was going to say that, but she said, it don't even matter because I am done. They have been playing in Rashina's face with this problem. She was looking for a mature man that didn't have a sparkle shirt on. We met her ex, but they do get along for the kids. Either way, it's like, why would you mess this up? You fumbled when you had 2 quality women that were interested in you at the same time, and you had a lot still to choose from because you came in here with 0. So it doesn't make sense why you needed to do all this. Rashina says, look, I hope you find your person. She said, before you can even say whether or not I'm ready to love, I can say right now, I'm eliminating myself in the process. I'm not interested in this mess they have played in my face by giving me people like Jonathan and Will 1.0 to pick from. So why am I staying in a situation? And I've been wondering that since 3 episodes ago. But either way, Rashina stuck it out for as long as she could, honey. And she pulled the Sierra from Houston and said, I got to go. From Dallas. She said, I got to go. I stuck out this too long and I almost missed Fashion Week. Sierra will still be a favorite. Anyway, shout out to Rashina for choosing herself. I actually respect this choice simply because she was tired. She was mud tired. She was exhausted with them playing our face with this whack level of candidates to get down to the end. And the one that seemed like he had the most common sense turned out to be a fool just like the rest. It was so depressing to see. My heart goes out to Vanessa because she's still in this round and there's nothing between her and Zoe, so she need to go too. I hate to see it, and I'm glad Rashina chose herself. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. We will reconvene in the next episode. Don't forget to like this video. Please, please, please like, comment, and subscribe. Join the question crew, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.